Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Today we have a very interesting guest. First off, she is not a typical guest. She is an employee of a medical device company, but she has not been a medical device sales rep, and she's not necessarily a medical device sales leader either. She actually comes from the other side of things in strategic sourcing. She's the director of global strategic sourcing of Coloplast, and her name is Danielle Hansen. The reason why it's such a pleasure to have Danielle on the show today and what we get into is because she deals a lot with negotiation. And she touches upon how important the value of negotiation, the skill set of negotiation, and how deeply rooted it needs to be into, the effective sales rep of today. If they're really going to be that impactful sales professional that makes things happen. In addition to that, she's had a very explosive career. She is the epitome of someone that looks for challenges, throws himself into things they might not know how to do at all, and then literally finds a completely new avenue and direction to take things that take her to an entirely new height. So I really hope you enjoy the episode, and thank you again for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast. So before we get started, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and masterfully navigate your career to executive-level leadership. Visit evolveyoursuccess.com to find out more. Hello, Danielle. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Samuel. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. No complaints. So today we have with us Danielle Hansen. She's the director of a medical technology company. Danielle, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a director of global strategic sourcing for Coloplast Interventional Urology. So the Interventional Urology division develops and produces and markets products for surgical treatment of our urological and gynecological disorders. Such things as voiding dysfunctions, erectile dysfunction, or urinary incontinence. So from my standpoint, I'm working with our team of global suppliers, managing those relationships with our team, and making sure that we're able to get good quality products in the hands of the sales representative and then ultimately to our customers.
Okay. Can you describe for us what a day in the life of a director of global strategic sourcing looks like?
Yeah, so a day in life of someone in global strategic sourcing, especially in light of everything going on with COVID right now, our biggest focus is working with those suppliers, making sure that we have established relationships with them, making sure that we're able to get quality products and firefight through any issues that we may have within the supply chain as a result of COVID.
Got it. And from a sales rep perspective, what is it good for a sales rep to understand about what you do?
From a sales rep perspective, I think from our standpoint, we are constantly focused on making sure we have good quality products in the hands of our supplier or of our reps. So making sure that as we're going forward, that we do have that product on hand and that it's available to customers. And, from our standpoint, the job comes with a lot of different things, and we're constantly making sure that we're mitigating risk and we're focused on making sure that it is very much a quality offering for those sales reps so that they have good products to sell.
Excellent. I find your career track so fascinating. That's, I really want to talk to you about how you made some of the decisions you've made. So, let me ask you, so going from with your role now, how did you arrive there? Is that something that you knew you wanted to be in, or is that something you discovered?
No, I would definitely say it's something I fell into more than anything. So when I was in undergrad, I had a triple major in in undergrad in Spanish, operations management, and legal studies and business. And I was dead set on being an attorney.
Wow.
I mean, absolutely dead set. I had sat for the LSATs. I was, ready to go, was filling out my applications and everything. And I was just like, I'm in my senior year. I might as well interview for the hell of it, get some good practical experience, right? And I wasn't really like looking for an opportunity. And I had an offer from 3M and I had an offer from Medtronic. And when I graduated, Enron scandals were huge.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those things where I was looking at Medtronic and looking at the fact that they did have such a deeply rooted mission statement and, a real focus on the patients and who they serve. And it was one of those things where I just kind of stepped back and I said, you know what, this is something that I need to consider more seriously. And I ended up taking a purchasing internship where I was supposed to just be a buyer, the tactical purchase orders, reading the computer system, issuing those orders. And literally they brought me on, and day one, instead of having me doing any kind of buying, they threw me into contract negotiations because my boss at the time didn't like anything to do with contracts or negotiations. So he handed multi-million and billion-dollar contracts to the intern to negotiate, and just kind of threw me in.
Right. And remind me again, why did you go that direction instead of continuing with law?
It was one of those things. I had worked, so I was working about 50 hours a week, putting myself through school, and then also at the same time getting a triple major. And when I was going to fill out the forms on why, and the essays and everything that come with that for law school admittance, I just couldn't get through it. It was like I had just a roadblock at the time, and it was something I just could not fill out.
Mm-hmm.
I could have done it, but it just was not coming to me. And it was an opportunity for me to see another path.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was an internship. I mean, it was supposed to be a 3-month internship. And how I looked at it is, I could still go to law school after the internship, but at least I get the experience. And when I jumped into that experience, I saw that, I'm negotiating these agreements. I'm working on these contracts. I don't have to have a degree, a JD in order to do so. And I'm getting that practical experience, and I'm actually utilizing my Spanish major as well, with these suppliers that I'm negotiating with in Spanish in Costa Rica or Nicaragua or Mexico. And it like enlightened a whole different area to me, and one that I've stayed in ever since.
So really, the opportunity that you discovered completely changed your trajectory that you had planned for. I mean,
correct.
Textbook example of
100%.
Wow.
100%. It was a practical application. It was one of those things where, again, 3 months of my time, I would still be going to law school in the fall. And
Right.
That's what I had planned. And when I fell into the position, after 2 months, they offered me a full-time position. And literally, I mean, for an intern, usually you get menial tasks, filling up coffee or, doing just stuff that doesn't have an impact or isn't important. And I was actually translating letters from physicians from Spanish to English. I was negotiating agreements, and I was able to work with the suppliers, and really found the negotiation area was something that I was passionate about.
So this was all at Medtronic.
This was all in Medtronic, yes.
Okay. So then from Medtronic, you went into Honeywell. So you had already got experience. You discovered you loved what you were doing. You were given all this work as an intern that you weren't expecting. You clearly got good at it. And then was that an active decision to go to Honeywell, or was that what happened there?
Yeah. So when I was at Medtronic, I was focused on Lean and Six Sigma towards the end of my career there with Medtronic. And Medtronic did a really great job of training people in Lean and Six Sigma philosophy, but they didn't do a really good job of actually practicing it. And it wasn't ingrained in the culture. Honeywell, in contrast, is a company that has lived and breathed Lean and Six Sigma throughout everything they do, including like folder click in a computer system.
Mm-hmm.
So from my standpoint, it was a great opportunity to further that greenbelt training that I had, get more experience in a much more mature company, which Medtronic was. So it did step outside of med device, but it gave me an opportunity to see a more mature consumer electronic company, as well as, building products too.
How did you even learn about the Honeywell opportunity, or that it was even something that you should consider?
Yeah, so I had someone that I had worked with in the past that had reached out to me about the opportunity.
Got it. And you said, you know what, this makes sense. So the Lean Sigma, That certification, would you say it's best applied to someone of your position?
There are actually few people in my position that actually have Lean and Six Sigma in their background. From my standpoint, and the reason that I went down that path is it really teaches you a problem-solving methodology and walks you through how do you approach problems and how do you think about removing waste from systems to reduce lead time. And I think there's a lot of good impact, that you can have in the sourcing as well as supply chain area to really focus on leaning out the fulfillment streams and making it easier for our customers to get the products that they need quicker.
So then, okay, so law was no longer, but you were into something that you loved. You're getting certifications with Lean Six Sigma, which doesn't even directly apply to what you do, but you found it useful. But you still went back to Harvard Law School, right? Right after.
I did, yeah.
So what prompted that?
Yep. So in the Harvard Law School is not my JD. So it is a difference from that standpoint. It's an executive certificate program. Sure. So I took 3 different executive certificate programs through Harvard, and it was focused on both leadership development and then also negotiation, and then their master negotiation course. So it gave me an opportunity to really delve deeper from a negotiation standpoint. Most of what I had at that point in time was just experiential learning.
Sure.
I had not actually taken a course on negotiation. So the 3 courses that I took at Harvard really provided me an opportunity to, further develop that and understand, more about, okay, what are some additional tools or techniques that I could use that I didn't already have the knowledge of, and then practically apply those directly to what I was doing.
Would you say it made you much more effective?
Oh, without a doubt.
Without
a doubt.
Wow.
Yeah.
These negotiation courses.
It was one of those things that takes you back because literally, when I went to the program, I was one of the youngest by about 20 years.
Oh, wow. Really?
So, the next closest people to me were like 20 years older than I was.
Oh, wow.
And, much more, well refined in their career path, where they were going and whatnot. And from my standpoint, I didn't have even the credentials that they had, but being able to go through the program, being able to see what your success was. And there were a lot of mathematical models that they actually brought in. So you could see how you did compared to the rest of the class in your negotiation skills. And for me, that was something really cool because, I was negotiating with contract, managers from New York Knicks who do all of the basketball contracts with the players, union negotiators. A guy from, Los Angeles who was the head of their LAPD SWAT team doing hostage negotiations. So, it was one of those very humbling experiences where you actually get to see, these are people that have been for the, 30 plus years doing this as a career.
Oh my goodness. Would you say that a class like the Harvard Negotiation Masterclass you took, could that be especially useful to sales reps?
Without a doubt. So that pretty much launched my career in an additional direction. So from that point, after taking that Harvard negotiation course, that launched my career also into teaching. So I'm also an adjunct professor in what you call negotiation strategy at the University of St. Thomas. And now also I'm doing stuff at St. Catherine's University here as well. And it's really focused around negotiation training and making sure that I'm driving that through in the MBA, but also in the executive education program. And then I have my own consultancy where I do negotiation training for sales reps, regulatory personnel who are responsible for negotiations and lobbying with the government. I've done negotiation trainings for buying teams, sourcing teams, pretty much you name it. Also project managers that are also responsible for negotiating, personnel and how they're going to get additional team members on their project.
Right. Wow. So, it doesn't get much better, Danielle. You're just full of surprises. So you have a consultancy where you train on negotiation.
I do.
So let me ask you.
I do, yes.
I want to take it back to the questions of the sales rep. You just lightly describe, how does negotiation training, so similar to what you offer, help improve the selling of a sales rep?
Yeah, so I think it's a couple of things. Generally from a sales perspective, people are approaching it thinking that they don't have leverage. And in most of the classes that I teach for sales reps and sales managers and whatnot, their focus is always on the buying side is the one who holds all the cards. They have all the leverage. We really have no leverage going into that. And, a sales rep focus is on maintaining that relationship, especially when I'm looking at, heavily regulated, type products, because it's not easy for them to continue to switch. So in those types of situations, it's walking those sales reps through what specifically is it that they have and what is the reason that that other party is still at the table. Because so often those sales reps are overlooking the fact that the other side's still talking to them. Time is of the essence, right? And we all don't have enough of it. But if the other side's still talking to you, there's a reason. And that's what you have to focus in from a negotiation perspective, is getting to what specifically is that reason that that other party is talking to you. Because that reason is going to be your leverage. And if you can uncover what that specific lever is, you will be able to, from a challenger sales perspective, you will be able to challenge that sale. You'll be able to push forward and figure out by asking questions, by using some of the problem-solving techniques to make sure that that other party sees how you are differentiated and not a commodity product.
Sure. Danielle, I'm sold.
Sign me up, right?
Sign me up. I'm sold. That's excellent. That is excellent. I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And I want to let you know that I have a couple of programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Visit evolveyoursuccess.com to find out more. So then, help me understand then, because you went from contract manufacturing, then you got your electives with the Harvard Law School, your executive education, and then you went to St. Jude Medical and then Stryker. So what the St. Jude Medical and the Stryker, what were those opportunities about? Why did you leave Honeywell to go pursue those after your degree?
Yeah, so to be very honest, Honeywell decided to, which is common to Honeywell, they decided to go through a layoff process.
Got it.
And, I was still newer in my career. So at that point, I was essentially cheap labor, right? Mm-hmm. They had a lot of people that had been with the company for many, many years, 20, 30 plus years. Sure. And they ended up using that as an opportunity to get rid of the people that were later on in their career. They kept me as one of the three that were left after laying off about 50 personnel.
Wow.
And they had made the decision that they were going to outsource those supplier relationship manager positions to China and Mexico and, any other geographies that those suppliers were actually in.
Got it.
Now, all of the suppliers that I was managing were in Mexico, Indonesia, China, and the writing was on the wall, right? So it was one of those things I could have waited until they ended up laying me off in future layoffs, or I could do something about it. And it was an opportunity for me. I actually had someone that reached out to me that I had worked with at Medtronic, was trying to build a team at St. Jude Medical, and asked if I would consider joining their team.
Nice.
So it was just perfect timing. And, it was one of those things, instead of just waiting around for that layoff to come, I decided to do something about it and got back into med device, which is the area that I'm truly passionate about, because there are a few areas of careers where you can say you're truly helping and making an impact in someone's life with everything that you're doing.
I am 100% with you there. So then you jumped into St. Jude Medical, and you were there for a year, and then jumped into Stryker. Was that just expanding the skill sets, or what was going on?
Yeah, so Medtronic and St. Jude Medical were both on the cardiovascular side.
Yep.
So I had quite a bit of experience with those technologies. The Stryker opportunity was one that just a recruiter had reached out to me, and they were looking to bring me out to their San Jose facility. And at the time, the San Jose facility, the average age of the worker, including upper management, was like 25.
Okay.
So they were looking for someone who had bench strength and knew med device and could bring, good processes and, sourcing structure to place that wasn't there, and then help mentor and guide the people that were there. So it was a good opportunity for me to, help on the teaching side, help on the mentoring side, give me some more experience in an entirely different area. Sure. Because this was focused on endoscopy. It was also later focused, as soon as I got promoted into more of a corporate development type role, I was focused across the entire company for Stryker, including orthopedics, including neurovascular and a lot of other areas within that.
Got it. And then you went on to CPC. And then is the experience with that Stryker role what turned you on to being an adjunct professor? Or were you just headed there anyway?
I was never headed towards adjunct professor. I had a teacher of mine that had reached out to me that I had stayed in contact with, and she was one of my undergrad teachers, and she had specifically asked me to come and sit on an advisory board, and that advisory board really looked at, what could have been done differently in the program in both undergrad as well as my MBA with St. Thomas, and what specifically should they be offering that they're not already offering to better enhance, people's skill sets for when they do go into the working world. And the one thing that I spoke loudly about at that with the presidents there was that negotiation wasn't offered. I had to go to Harvard in order to take a negotiation class, and I would have gone to St. Thomas if it would have been an offering. And from their standpoint, the president just asked me right then and there, do you want to teach it?
Wow. You are just...
And I had never taught before. I had done some things at Stryker, obviously, and at my other companies, but I had never formally taught as an adjunct professor. And she gave me an opportunity, and she's like, I can tell that you're passionate about this. I can tell that you'd be the person that would be great to start this here and to really make sure that this program grows. And I've been successful in making that program grow. Essentially, they had initially started me out with just doing a summer term. And now I teach 4 times a year. So I teach every single semester that they have. So I have summer, I have fall, I have J term, and then I also have spring semester. And then executive education has been added on, and I do that 4 times a year. And then also any custom, courses where companies come to St. Thomas and say, we'd really like for an accelerated negotiation course, or we would like, something custom tailored to us, sales reps, or to regulatory, or whatever function that may be. And then I put together that custom course and run it for them.
Nice. How big are your classes?
For MBA, I have classes up to 36 people in a course. And then for executive education, it's usually between 10 and 15.
Wow. Next time I talk to you, you're going to be having a negotiation division started at the University of St. Thomas. Just on a roll.
I would love it. A new major, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
So then you're an adjunct professor. You've had all this experience. Has what you've had to do in this role come pretty naturally, or have you found yourself stretched and really having to get innovative in how you?
I think any good career step, you are being stretched in certain regards. You just have to figure out what those regards are. And, in this particular situation, yes, it's definitely stretching me in a lot of regards. It's a great opportunity for me to delve more deeply, in the urology market, to understand that customer base, to understand some of the challenges that we have, being a urology company that, say, a cardiovascular company does not have.
Wow. Well, Danielle, you've done some incredible things in your career, and I could listen to you all day talk about this. I'm going to take it back to a little bit of the negotiation. So with negotiation, going back again to the sales rep, do you think negotiation not only helps the sales rep become more effective with customers, but also with colleagues and leadership?
Oh, I definitely do. From my standpoint, when I'm focused on negotiation trainings, I'm not just focused on those external negotiations, which so often when you go to a negotiation training, that's all you get. Right? It's just that external, the buyer versus seller. Right. From my standpoint, when I focus on negotiation trainings, it's really tailoring multiple different types of negotiations because we all are dealing with them on an everyday basis. Negotiation is truly more than just a class in school. It truly is a life skill. Everything that we do, when you think about it, is truly a negotiation. And some of the most difficult negotiations are those internal negotiations because you're dealing with those people on a daily basis, right? Things that have occurred or past projects that have occurred or things that have gone wrong from a personality standpoint, those all come into play and exponentially increase the emotion that's included in that process. And, because of that, some of those, internal negotiations are even more difficult than the external negotiations that so many of us are trained upon.
Now you just sound like you're giving relationship advice.
Relationships are a negotiation, aren't they?
Yeah, no, you're spot on with that one. And you're right. I'm sure when you're working with someone that's worked with you time and time again, and they've seen your successes and failures, they have their own bias that you need to negotiate through to get something done.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Wow, that's interesting. So many people I talk to, they have this plan from the very beginning, you included. But what's interesting about your choices in your career path? It really seems like you followed your plans, of course, but you really throw yourself into whatever opportunity you get, and you allow yourself to see where else you can go. Is that pretty accurate, or would you say it's something else that's at play?
No, I would say that's 100% accurate. From my standpoint, I really thrive on challenging situations. I'm one of those people that if I don't have challenge, I start to get bored. But I like the situations where I feel trapped. I don't know if, because I haven't done this or experienced it before, I don't know if I'm going to be successful. But at the same time, I'm going to learn quite a bit, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that I am successful in whatever I'm doing. So it really gives me an opportunity through each of these different opportunities that are presented. It gives me an opportunity to further develop skill sets or enhance skill sets that I either didn't have or that I had but needed to refine.
And with all this being said, it's kind of a good thing you didn't go to law school, because then you wouldn't have had this career.
I think it is. I definitely think it is. And I had looked at going to law school later on in my career, actually when I was at Stryker. And from my standpoint, there's not return on investment, especially from the standpoint of I would essentially be starting, from ground zero again.
But you did get you did get an MBA, didn't you?
I did get my MBA. I got an international marketing.
And would you say that served you quite a bit?
Yeah, it has. I mean, from an MBA perspective, it gave me a lot more respect for the marketing and sales side, and especially on the international playing field, to understand some of those different cross-functional areas is extremely important. When I'm then negotiating with the sales functions or the marketing functions, it also helps me to understand, more of their viewpoint and where they're coming from.
Got it. Well, what I'd ask for you to do is, if for anyone that's has the opportunity to listen to anything we've talked about today, what would you share about navigating your career, or even getting into the medical sales industry and then really navigating your career well? What information would you like to share with anyone listening?
From a navigating your career standpoint, I think you really need to focus on not only having a plan, but also being flexible, because there are a lot of things that will change. And especially as you're going through the course of life, there's a lot of things that'll be presented to you. There's a lot of challenges that you'll come up against. And I think the biggest thing is making sure you're looking at it from a learning perspective, and make sure at the end of the day, you understand, some of those challenging situations are going to feel uncomfortable during those times. But at the end of the day, being able to push through them, being able to be successful through them and have those key learnings helps you greatly, across the board as you're growing your career.
Love it. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for talking with me today. It was great. Yeah, it was great. And we hope to catch up with you and talk to you soon.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.
Wasn't that a fantastic episode? Again, Danielle's story is interesting because she really just found new opportunities, threw herself into them with everything she had, and discovered an entirely different direction to take things. And it exposed her to even more opportunities. And really, that's not an uncommon theme now. Almost every guest I have has something along those lines of being given just something small and turning it into something very, very significant. And Danielle fits right up there at the top of the list. What I loved also is the negotiation, right? Utilizing that leverage. As sales reps, I'm sure you know that. You know how important it is to utilize leverage. But with that being said, I don't think all sales reps realize how much leverage they're giving away, believing that they don't have any, and not securing an opportunity to influence a provider to do something a little different, or influence someone on the provider's staff to do something a little different. So again, it was great to have Danielle on the show. I'm so glad you took the time to listen to this episode. If you're someone out there that is looking for a position to get into medical device sales, pharmaceutical sales, genetic testing sales, molecular sales, then you need to go to evolveyoursuccess.com and take the assessment. And let's have a conversation about how the medical sales career builder can help you find and secure the position that you're actually looking for. And for those of you that really want to improve your performance in the field, you're a sales rep and you're saying, you know what? I know that I can bring my game up to a different level. Again, visit evolveyoursuccess.com and look for the Sales Builder program. And let's have a conversation and talk about something that is designed to ramp up your performance, get you some real clarity on where you want to take your career, and have you taking leaps and bounds to getting there. Thank you again for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast. Make sure you tune in next week for some more amazing episodes. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.